It was another successful night for the Utah Jazz. Let's talk about why. It's the Hoops Nerd postgame show. All right, guys. So the Utah Jazz had a few performances tonight that were pretty nice, but it was an overall team performance 3.5 quarters way through this game that made me really happy. If you're a Jazz fan, you have to be happy with some of the things the Jazz are showing us and some of the things they're doing, because it really bodes well for the future down the road. So the Utah Jazz lose to the Indiana Pacers, which was the goal of this game. But then we've got to talk about what happened before, because Utah was up by 13 in this one in the first half and was up by 1 in like the early fourth quarter. So they were absolutely competing in this one, and eventually just let go of the rope, whether it's coaching decisions to make it happen. Players just ended up getting outclassed. Pretty impressive stuff from the Jazz, while also getting closer to Cooper Flag. Utah is absolutely on the right track. Things are just getting better and better and better. You look at this 62 plus 16, that's 7. I know math. 72, 78, 4 games left for the Jazz as we get closer to the end of the season. Can you believe this? We're already through this whole season almost, just 4 games left. Utah has this top spot absolutely locked in, and you can absolutely expect them to keep it. Even tonight, I got a little bit nervous. When the Jazz were up 13 in the first half, it was getting a little bit like, can we calm down a little bit? Let's talk a little bit about what happened there. So the Indiana Pacers, who their defense is not what they're known for, and that's part of why Utah was doing pretty well. Utah didn't have a lot of super impressive performances tonight, although they did get a nice one from, I would say, Isaiah Collier. Although the thing that made me happy about Collier, outside of the 15, 5, and 5, which I think we'll just kind of expect those numbers next year when he's playing, and I like that he's taking threes. The shot honestly looks pretty good. It looks like if he can just get in the gym and just get those reps in, he might be able to just take that three-point shot and make it consistent. If he can, he gets really interesting as a future. From him was just the defense, and just the Jazz defense overall as this game for the first half of the game and also into the second half. Utah was getting stops. They were playing pretty good defense. And I think that's one thing we're going to have to watch with this team. I wrote about it in the SLC Dunk recap if you want to go read that. But this Utah Jazz team has shown what they're doing and what they're doing in the draft. And I actually think if Utah was picking, I think there's 3 players they'd probably prefer to draft. And this is just my own opinion. I could be completely off. It may just be a thought for tonight, and maybe that changes. But I think the Jazz would be really happy, obviously, with Cooper Flag. Anyone is going to be absolutely ecstatic. The Jazz would be ecstatic to get Cooper Flag. But I think they'd really like to get Ace Bailey or VJ Edgecombe. And one of the reasons why is I think this Utah Jazz team needs two-way talent. They need talent that's really good on both ends of the floor. Length, athleticism, and defense on the defensive end, something that Utah just does not have on this roster right now when Walker Kessler's not playing, when Taylor Hendricks is not playing. We don't get to see those things. The Jazz have a lot of talent that can shoot the ball, a lot of offensive potential. Bryce Sensabaugh, we know how well he can shoot it. He didn't have a good shooting night tonight with 9 points. For a second I thought it was 10 rebounds, 9 points for him. For a second I thought, was he close to a triple-double? No. 10 rebounds, 9 points, 0 assists. They have a lot of shooting talent. Johnny Juzang, we know, can shoot the ball tonight. 5 for 12. Shot the ball from 3 really well. We know Filipowski is actually into a slump right now. It's starting to get into an extended slump. He goes 0 for 6 tonight. I don't know what's going on. His legs might be out. He's just in a slump. He's not hitting shots. He goes 0 for 6 from 3 tonight. 3 for 15 from the field. Pretty rough. But we know what he can do. When he's right and he's playing well, he's hitting threes at a near 40% clip, which was what he was doing before the last 4 or 5 games. Colin Sexton, nice offensive player. Isaiah Collier can do a lot on the offensive end. He's one of the only players on the floor right now showing some defensive chops. Keontae George, really interesting, nice, offensively skilled player. Not a very good defensive player. Jaden Springer, I'd say, is one of the signs of what Utah's trying to do. They're trying to get two-way talent. What was his? KJ Martin, who did not play. I don't know if KJ Martin's going to play anymore at all. He has not been. He may play if the Jazz want to lose, but he has not been super impressive lately, and I just don't know if he's an NBA player. But Jaden Springer shows some nice things to me. Look at that. With all these players with these huge minuses because Utah was up, he was just a -8 in a bad loss. And Bryce Sensabaugh, interesting, only -3. So Utah is going to try to fill this team with defensive talent, and that's what they need to do. Absolutely. The problem with this team is not offense. Utah is, unless they're going up against the very elite offenses, Utah has found a way to score at a pretty efficient level. It's just the defense is so bad. And that defense is so bad, it makes it hard for Utah to have an efficient or top 10 offense, because when you are always in the half court, it's just hard to score at a high efficiency level like the other elite offenses do. Defense creates offense. If you have bad defense, you are not getting a lot of transition opportunities. You are not getting a lot of easy buckets. You are always in the half court. When the defense you're playing against, I don't care how bad they are, if they're set in their half court defense, it's just harder to score on them than if you're just going down the court and taking transition opportunities. It's just you're just not getting a lot of those, and Utah does not get a lot, and that's why their offense struggles the way that it does, outside of just having elite offensive peak of their powers players. But Utah needs that defense. And so what we've seen in the last, 2 drafts, we saw them draft Cody Williams last offseason. That's not looking like a great pick, to be honest. Not looking great. It just is what it is. But you can see the kind of the idea behind drafting Cody Williams. Long, super high defensive potential during that draft. When you were looking at him as a prospect, you could see him being a nice defensive wing. Now, jury's not out. He may still turn into that. It's not going to be that hard for Cody Williams if he can get things straight. It seems like he has the yips now for whatever reason. He just, I don't know if it's just confidence or what, but if he can figure that out, he's got the physical tools to be a nice defender and then shoot the ball on the other end. And then you look at them drafting Taylor Hendricks, super long, super athletic, a high defensive potential. And we saw that with Taylor Hendricks too. And also it was interesting. So they had Taylor Hendricks on the broadcast tonight. 2 interesting points we noticed when we were watching. He's at 243. The muscle with Taylor Hendricks is impressive. That size, that is fantastic. He even mentioned it during the thing that when he starts playing, it's going to drop a little bit because it just is. To get in elite NBA shape, you're going to lose weight. You're going to lose, the body fat melts off if you're taking care of yourself. And so he'll be in that 230, 235 range, which is amazing. At 6'9", he's going to be absolutely a beast if he can stay healthy. It was nice to see that. So he's at 243 with muscle packing on. Obviously, he's been working hard during the injury, which is nice to see. The gun show with Taylor Hendricks is coming. It's coming. Well, thank you for the virtual monies, Christian House Money to us. You don't have to, but I always appreciate it. You're amazing. And thank you for supporting the channel, House Money. You are awesome. The other interesting thing that Taylor Hendricks said during the broadcast was that he'll be 100% come May. That was kind of a surprise to me. He is in physical on the right track, it seems like. So if he can be at peak physical form in May, that gives him a full off season to train. How cool is that? He can get in shape again. So having that whole time with just honestly a catastrophic injury like that, it was truly awful. It's going to take some time to build that strength. You're going to want to be careful. You want to make sure that you do things right and train so that you're ready to go. He looks fantastic. We saw signs of him really taking a leap. I mean, I tell you what, man, I cannot. One of the most fun things about next season, and one of the biggest bummers about this season, how much more fun would this season have been if we got to watch Taylor Hendricks all year? I can tell you right now, at least my guess would have been that Taylor Hendricks would have been resting some of these games, because I think that we were going to see some real improvement from him. And to be honest, next year, like I said, it's going to be so much fun watching him play. It's going to be one of the most fun things about next season, right? I mean, who didn't want to watch Taylor Hendricks this year if you're a Jazz fan? That was going to be one of the more interesting things, and it got taken away from us in Game 3. And honestly, how cool is that going to be next season in the Delta Center when Taylor Hendricks comes back and steps on the floor again? It's going to be awesome. Gives me chills thinking about it. I cannot wait. And you can just see. So, I don't know what's going to happen to Cody Williams. It's not been great. We have seen some real promise from Isaiah Collier and Kyle Filipowski, so I'm happy with that draft. It's the best the Jazz really could have done with how the lottery went. They got jumped twice. It's going to happen. That was a crazy lottery. Hopefully they don't get jumped twice again this year. I think the odds are in our favor, which is what makes me happy. And Utah gets no worse than a number 5 pick. I'm going to do a video. We'll see if I get to it tomorrow. I wouldn't mind. I might try. Tomorrow's a big day in a lot of ways for me and the family, but we'll try. We shall see. But I want to talk a little bit about who I would draft and why at the number 5 pick. And it may make people, I think there's a lot of people that'll disagree, but I don't care, because I'm going to say what I'm going to say. But anyways, I think things are going really well for Utah. I think that the season we're having right now, if you just argued what is the goal of the team, this is arguably one of the most successful seasons in Jazz history. Did anyone expect the Jazz to beat out the Washington Wizards for that top spot come lottery night? Utah has the best spot. If you're a team that's trying to lose games, which the Jazz are, if you're a team that's looking to start building through the draft completely, there is no other spot you would rather be. There may be teams like the Charlotte Hornets that have a few players you'd probably rather be building with, like Brandon Miller, really nice looking prospect. And I think Charlotte is really happy with who they have in Brandon Miller. He's going to be nice. You look at Washington. I mean, Alex Sarr looks pretty nice, and he's a prototype of what you want at the center position. And part of what I'm going to talk about at number 5 in at the very least, an SLC Dunk article. But, Washington doesn't have prospects that are just blowing your mind, and they're not winning them a lot of games. That's why they're number 2 with Utah. New Orleans has some nice prospects, and they're going to get a nice pick in this draft. I mean, Zion Williamson, it's pretty nice. We'll see who they get and so on. So Utah does not really have a prospect to build around at this point. It's fine. They are in the spot you would want to be if you're tanking. There is no arguing that. And so I would argue that this season for Utah is one of the most successful they've ever had, because they have accomplished the goal they set out with better than they ever have before. Better. The last 2 seasons, and who knows, maybe the last 2 seasons were just kind of seasons to get through to these 2 drafts, because I think the Jazz knew, and they know better than us in a lot of ways, what they're looking at the upcoming seasons, because they have guys that their entire job is scouting. That's it. How cool would that be, by the way, guys, if like your only job was just scouting? I would love that. I tell you what, if there was one thing I'd love to do, it would be NBA scouting, because I love the draft. It's part of why I believe in the draft. Tanking is a vital part of building a healthy team ecosystem. It is just absolutely necessary. You've got to start from the ground up, and you've got to do it the right way. I think the last 2 seasons, they knew that Wembanyama was great. It's why both seasons they decided they were not good enough to go far, and they traded picks so they could keep their pick at trade. I've been on the Jazz front office, I would have preferred to be worse and just trade those veterans sooner. I don't know whose decision that was. I have some inclinations of who decided to keep the veterans longer than they should have. Taylor Hendricks, I think Taylor Hendricks has a chance to turn out to be really nice. And you look at that Wembanyama draft. In fact, let's go to it, by the way. Let's look at it. So 2023, I think the jury's completely still out on Taylor Hendricks. But, you know, I really liked Bilal Coulibaly, but let's see. So Victor Wembanyama has turned out to be as good as we all expected. Brandon Miller has turned out to be really nice. Scoot Henderson, it looked a little hairy there. He's been playing really well recently, and the Scoot stock is on the rise. I was going to make a joke there. I'm not going to make a joke. The Thompson twins, really nice. I think on the Bill Simmons podcast, he was talking to someone. I can't remember who it was. I think it was the Zach Lowe one. If you haven't listened to the Bill Simmons Zach Lowe pod, it's great. Zach Lowe is back, by the way, and we're all better off for it. But Zach mentioned that he was talking to a scout that said these two guys are the best athletes in the NBA. And that was an NBA GM or someone like that, or an NBA scout, whatever. It's crazy. I love Amen Thompson. You guys know how much I loved Amen Thompson. I spent a whole season talking about Amen Thompson. Well, Amen Thompson looks incredible. Incredible. And Asar Thompson as well. Both of them have panned out to be really nice. Now, here's where it gets a little interesting. Here's where Utah may have kind of jumped a little bit. I think Taylor Hendricks has a chance to be just as good as these three guys. Anthony Black has shown some nice things, but I don't think he's, no one's like writing home about Anthony Black and what he's doing at the Orlando Magic. It may be because of a lack of opportunity. They have a pretty good team, and he doesn't get a ton of minutes, but he's shown some things here and there. Bilal Coulibaly has had moments where he's shown some crazy stuff and crazy starts to the season with some impressive like shooting and whatnot, but he's also really kind of trailed off. I really liked Bilal in the draft. And the Jazz did too. They tried to trade up to get him. Jarris Walker. I really liked Jarris Walker. He has not really played much. We saw him tonight, and he played pretty well. And he's one of those guys, a dark horse trade candidate for the Jazz. Maybe I need to do a video about that. But I think there's a world where Taylor Hendricks could be the sixth best player in this draft. I mean, Cason Wallace might be there already, so that's kind of a bummer if he's like the number 6. And then you go through here and you kind of look at some of these players. Grady Dick can shoot the ball, but he's not changing much for Toronto, obviously. We got Keontae George, arguably one of the best players in this range, panning out pretty well. Although we know the pros and cons of Keontae George very well because we watch him every game. But I would argue that there's a lot of teams that drafted Kobe Buffkin or it's Cam Whitmore. We lost a lot of sleep over Cam Whitmore. Keontae's having just as good, and Cam Whitmore can't find a roster spot right now on the Rockets. So anyways, I actually think this draft turned out better than we thought a little bit. Me being just so frustrated that we didn't take enough or whatever, the crowd that thinks we should have taken more, which I tend to agree with. No, I do agree with. We should have, because we could have got Amen Thompson. We could have got Amen Thompson. He is remarkable. Remarkable. I can't tell you guys how much fun it would be to have Amen Thompson just running loose on the Utah Jazz. How crazy fun would that be? But that said, we did pretty well. It just all kind of depends on next year. So next year is going to be fun to see what Taylor Hendricks does. Now, last year's draft, I really liked Stephon Castle. He's going to win Rookie of the Year. He went number 4. We could have had him at number 4. It's crazy. So there's an argument where tanking works. We would have got better prospects that we wanted, and they would have been, it would have been a team of Amen Thompson and Stephon Castle. And if you know me, there's one thing, and Michael always makes fun of me for this, but I didn't see a elite defensive prospect that can't shoot that I didn't love. It's a flaw. All right? I like defense. I'm an old man. Defense wins championships, okay? It's what I love. But I'm always saying you can teach him to shoot. But anyways, Stephon Castle and Amen Thompson would have been quite the defensive duo on the perimeter, right? Stephon Castle is looking like Drew Holiday, getting triple doubles with the Spurs. Amen Thompson is looking like the best defensive player in the NBA. He's going to win a Defensive Player of the Year at some point, I have no doubt. Freaking incredible. So, I don't know. I don't even know what the point of what I was just saying there, other than we probably should have tanked those years, but it worked out actually fine. And I guess that's the point, is that Utah probably looked at that and said, you know, we like Taylor Hendricks. We like some of the players in this draft. You know, if they don't get Taylor Hendricks, I wouldn't be surprised if we do draft Cason Wallace at 10. He would look like a pretty sure thing, and he turned out to be a sure thing. He is really nice for the Mavericks. I mean, I tell you what, he would have been pretty. It's pretty clear Cason Wallace would be a starter on the Jazz, no question, and like a piece of for the future. Might have worked out better for him as well, because he probably would have been getting more minutes with Utah and getting paid more. And that's another thing, by the way, guys. Can we please? This is just a side note. If Utah gets Cooper Flagg, they're going to keep him for a long time. Like 10 years at least. All right? The way the CBA is set up, he is going to get paid in Utah. Now, he may want to go somewhere else for whatever reason, but that happens to every team. Utah is not the only team in the NBA that loses players because they want to go somewhere else. KD left Oklahoma City, right? Chris Paul left the Hornets remember when the Hornets were part of like New Orleans and whatever else? It was like a 2-city team or whatever. It happens to everybody. It's not just the Jazz. But you know what? A lot of these players stay. By the way, Donovan Mitchell, who wanted to leave, who asked out behind closed doors, I don't even care. I'm just going to be honest and say it out loud. Utah still gave him the Supermax. And now, what he was saying behind the closed doors is different than what he said against the Cleveland Cavaliers this playoff time. But having one of those situations where the player wanted to go, Utah got Donovan Mitchell to sign that Supermax. Because guess what? It is the most money you can get. So it actually works. And had Utah not done some stupid drafting, like drafting Udoka Azubuike, and the draft before being a complete wash, and doing stupid things like Utah drafted Tony Bradley, and you know who they drafted, how they did that? They traded picks that became Josh Hart and and Bryant, who is it on the Pacers? He's playing right now. It's funny, they're on the same team now. Actually, that's hilarious. Utah traded Thomas Bryant and Josh Hart. Josh Hart, who is a nice player, for Tony Bradley. Now, Bryant and Bradley are teammates now. Small world. Or funny, I don't know what the saying is there. But anyways, Utah did some bad things and some bad moves. And had they drafted Desmond Bane, had they drafted Jaden McDaniels, they probably don't have to trade Donovan Mitchell. They probably go a few more years, you know? But they didn't. They drafted stupidly. They drafted Azubuike, which was a moronic pick. That was the beginning of the end of that, by the way. Holy smokes. But Utah would have had Donovan Mitchell for 7 years if they wanted. Because you know what happens when the player signs a contract on your team? You play them. Do they want out? Okay, tough. Look at what happened with Zach LaVine and the Chicago Bulls. Oh, by the way, sorry, that's a dryer. I am near the laundry room, and I guess the dryer is going to be loud. Sorry. High production on this show. But Zach LaVine wanted out on the Bulls, and they had him for 2-3 years. They were like, you want to go? Tough. You're a Bull. You signed a contract. This is where you're going to be. Utah is going to, if they win Cooper Flagg sweepstakes, if they draft Dylan Harper, whose dad does not want him to come to Utah, if they draft Ace Bailey or VJ Edgecombe, guess what? They are going to be on the Jazz 7 to 10 years at least if they're good, if they pan out, right? Okay? It is not something like anyone who tells you like, oh, they're just going to leave in 4 years. And I have people to this day tweet stuff like that at me, and I try to just be nice. I really try. My goal is to be nice on Twitter. That's the goal. Doesn't always happen, but that's the goal. It just shows a lack of understanding that these players are going to sign. And here's the other thing that please, can we please understand this? And this is just a reality and a truth for all of us. The money talks, okay? The money talks. You are going to go, whether it's you, me, or an NBA player, where the money is, right? Now, there's some external factors. If you're LeBron James, you're that caliber of guy, you know that you're going to get paid wherever you go, and you also get to choose where you want to be. And LeBron left Miami, by the way, to go to Cleveland. Miami, which is a place a lot of players want to be, to go to Cleveland. He wanted to go there. And then he wanted to leave, and he wanted to live in LA. It is not the same for everyone else. A lot of these elite players, they stay where they play. They stay where they're drafted. You know? And why? If they leave that team, they will get paid less. It is designed to pay them more. The money talks. And not every player is able to go to LA. The way the CBA set up two ways to help these teams is one, what I just talked about, the teams that drafted the player can pay them more, whether it's bird rights, the new CBA structure with supermaxes and all these things. It's designed to keep the superstars in the place they were drafted because they get paid more. The other thing is the CBA has almost become a hard cap. The NBA is much closer, like much closer. In fact, they're very close to the NFL salary structure, much more closer to the NFL than they are to the MLB and baseball. Like, do we really, like, when I hear people talk about caps and do you really want that? The Dodgers are going to win the World Series. I don't have to watch a single game of baseball. If they stay healthy, the Dodgers are going to win. Okay? That's how baseball's always been. My parents and my family are Yankees fans. Everyone hated the Yankees when I was growing up, and still do, I guess, a little bit, because they always won, and it was always because of the salary. And the Dodgers now are the new Yankees. They pay the most. They are going to win the World Series this year. The NBA's different. The Lakers, they have LeBron and they have Luka. That's kind of it. They aren't going to be able to just sign everyone they want. Yeah, they can go get some veteran minimums and you can get your little exception contracts and things like that. But, you know, congrats on getting Patrick Beverley and guys like that. Congrats on getting washed up stars that left their teams. The Russell Westbrooks, like the Denver Nuggets did. Like, congrats. They ain't doing much come playoff time. They may help in the regular season, but you know what I mean? And the buyout guys are always overrated. Always overrated. It never really pans out much. I think I mean, honestly, I can't think of what's the last buyout guy that made a big difference on a playoff team that helped them win the championship? It's hard to think of one. It's their core team that got better. The last time I can kind of think about it, and it wasn't even a buyout guy, was if you remember when the Toronto Raptors, they traded for Kawhi, and then they traded for Marc Gasol. That was a big-time move. It was kind of like one of those moves that helped them win the title. That was a great move. Everyone talks about Kawhi. They don't talk about the Marc Gasol trade because he was a big deal for that team. But anyways, it's all set up for Utah to succeed. They just have to be smart. They have to do the right things. And one of them was losing this season to get that number one spot. The other is just being smart with contracts and holding on to a course. Do not be Do not be the Sacramento Kings. Imagine being the Sacramento Kings who are doing everything they can to win. Every single trade deadline, they're doing whatever they can to get better. They trade for Zach LaVine because that was the hot name on the trade market, and they made it happen. And their reward? The 13th spot. They're going to the lottery. Congrats. Honestly. And they have no shot at the playoffs. They're 37-40. They may not even win 40 games, and they are doing literally everything they can. They fired their coach because they want to win more games. They trade for Zach LaVine. They trade, it's nuts. I honestly cannot. I just, let me know in the comments. Would you rather be the Sacramento Kings who have no hope of the playoffs and no hope of the number 1 pick? Or would you rather be the Utah Jazz who have no hope of the playoffs, but a the strongest spot to getting the best possible shot at a franchise-altering player? Which would you rather be? I know where I'd rather be, and the Jazz are exactly where I would hope to be. So maybe you disagree with the last 2 years. This is kind of a ramble. I don't care. All of this has led to where the Jazz are now. It is where you want to be. This is where the Jazz can go down the road and become an actual championship contender because of what they're doing now. There is no other way. It is like Doctor Strange in Endgame or whatever. I think it was Endgame when he says that I've gone through 16,000 simulations. There is only one way to beat Thanos. Well, I tell you right now, there is one way for the Utah Jazz to win the championship. It's with the number 1 pick. Just like Doctor Strange said, this is where the Jazz need to be. We need some luck. We need some luck. We need something good to happen to this Jazz team. We need it badly. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. Let's give a ring on this. I checked the Fanspo lottery, and it's not updated yet, so we're not going to worry about it because I want to do it with Utah at the number 1. It's actually much better to be in the number 1 than the number 2, and I want to do it then. So we're going to stick with Tankathon tonight, but let's pull up the music and let's do it. All right, so if the lottery was today, Utah has the best. They don't have better odds than Washington or Charlotte, but they do have the best spot because no matter what, Utah has a top 5 pick. No matter what. Let's just hope, Austin R. Grant. Let's just hope. One way. And then I can't tell you the effect it will have on this team and the future of the Jazz. It will be remarkable. All right, let's give a ring. Let's see if the lottery was today, what would happen? No! No! But guess what? Utah has the 5th pick. They can go no lower. I'm going to do it again. I just want to. I don't care. No! By the way, this is why I'm switching to the next one. Utah gets the 2. I don't think this Tankathon is set up like the actual lottery because the actual lottery, the first pick, once it's done, then all those combinations that team has are gone because that team's picked. That's why it goes up to this percentage. Tankathon is rigged, Austin. I know. I agree. I think Utah's getting a top 4. And if Utah gets a top 4, I'm happy. Because if I get any one of Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, or VJ Edgecombe, I'm happy. That's who I want. Any one of those players would be remarkable and so much fun to watch next year. It's what I want. All right, let's give a shout out to the All-Stars, guys. Let's give a shout out to Christian House Money to Haas, Robert Hall of Fame, Cam Bam, thank you, ma'am, Ryan Edward Perry, the legend, I believe in Steve Jazz Exile, Baby Elliot Matson, see ya, Lex Salater, Jordan the GOAT, Best Roll, Austin R. Grant, Editor Extraordinaire, KG10 to TH5, and Patrick Akubo, the Connoisseur. Guys, like and subscribe to the channel. I hope everyone has a really nice weekend. I will talk to you next time. Like and subscribe if you want to join. You can